Hey everybody, and welcome to the Mustang The Rustang episode 18. So, in the last video, the multi-part 17.1, 2, and 3, we assembled the engine. So now we have the intake manifold installed. My brother E-Boy powder coated the intake manifold. This is an aluminum Speedmaster manifold. I did not want to leave it natural aluminum because they pit just so bad. The valve covers were also Speedmaster polished aluminum valve covers, but the polishing job was not very good on them, so I had him powder coat these gold because a 65 Mustang is supposed to be a black block with gold valve covers. We went ahead and left the Speedmaster 3 cylinder heads natural aluminum. If they get nasty, we'll paint them later. We got our reusable copper exhaust manifold gaskets from Speedmaster. We have a set of valve cover gaskets for it. So we were even able to hook up the kickdown linkage part here. From the original manifold, we had to space it up a little bit. I don't remember exactly what we had to do, but we got that working. We got our $8 lift plate on from
Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Carlisle. It was fall, spring, Ford, one of those Carlisles. So another thing I don't think I ever went over. Basically, the original manifold weighed 42 pounds, and the cylinder heads were 47 pounds each. The new aluminum stuff, the intake manifold is only 16 pounds. What a weight savings. And the heads are 29 pounds a piece. So it was 136 pounds for the intake manifold and the heads. Minus the 74 of the new, we are saving 62 pounds in weight on this motor, which is going to be excellent. So today, I think the plan is we have Mr. C Ford transmission sitting out here. We are going to get the flywheel back on the motor, and we have the engine plate in the cleaning machine. And I finally figured out what this thing is for. This is to locate the starter properly. That is why Fords have the separator plate between the motor and transmission. So we have the separator plate, we've got a flywheel that looks brand new, we've got the converter that's been worked, the transmission's been rebuilt. We put the vacuum line on the transmission to the modulator. We have the dipstick tube, which I do believe bolts to the back of the head. We have the shifter linkage on. This is the kickdown linkage, which I think we'll leave off for now. And then we bent up the original transmission lines. That was kind of an oopsie there. And then the other one is in here too. It's broken. So we need to do something about the trans lines. I think we can reuse this part, but we'll have to bend some new stuff. So we're gonna get the engine crane out and get the motor out here and get the motor up, and let's try to get the transmission on the block. Oh, there's G Jr. He's here, of course. So we'll get the engine crane, get the engine, and we'll start assembling the motor and transmission as one unit. So I taught the boy to do this. Is we have bagged everything and marked everything so we know what it goes to. So this thing says trans switch. So not only do we have the trans switch in here, the neutral safety switch, we have the bolts to the neutral safety switch. This is the one adapter for the transmission cooler line. Here's the other one. As you can see, we broke that one off. And some bolts here. What do you think those bolts are for? Are those for the transmission motor mount? The transmission mount? I think those are for the transmission mount. Yeah. And then like in here, that one says trans mount. There's some more bolts and nuts for the trans mount. What else do we have in here? There's the transmission bolts. So always good idea to bag and tag everything. So we've already cleaned this off a while ago, and we'll get this back on the motor. And we'll get the motor out here, on the transmission, excuse me. We'll get that back on the transmission, and we'll get the motor out here and start assembling stuff. All right, with that time warp, as you see, we got the motor onto the engine hoist, and we're starting to line it up. Here are some of the bolts, the original transmission bolts. I got G Junior over there cleaning them up. Some of them are missing some washers and all sorts of things. Now, one thing I did notice on this, I should have showed you, this torque converter has 2 drain plugs. The flywheel only has 3 holes for the drain plugs. So you got to make sure that you line them up on the 2 holes that work properly. We're going to go ahead and get the bolts in the bell housing and bolt that up, and then hopefully, let me see, I am not sure where this dipstick is supposed, oh, I think that dipstick is going to bolt right there to that back of that head. Yep, we might have to bend that a little bit, but that dipstick is going to bolt to that back of the head. That's what I was wondering. We have headers for it. We have some old school tri-Y headers for it. We put the transmission neutral safety switch on. That is the modulator valve line, which still needs a little massaging. Like I said, I think they originally had it just lay in here like this, and it looks like total crap. So we're going to try to bend it around, because they had it going to this fitting here. So let me walk over to G Junior here, and we'll give him the other bolts. Here's this one.
Hey, we got a kind of a problem.
That one's messed up. Let me see. Yeah, it's a little rounded. I'll see if I can find another one. All right, don't worry about this one. I'll go find it. We'll find one.
Well, some of these are actually kind of messed up, but I don't think I heard anything.
Well, now they've been in and out 100 times. The car's ancient, so we got a messed up bolt head. We will see if we can find another bolt for this, and we'll see what happens. We'll get this all bolted up. We have new torque converter bolts for it, because the other torque converter bolts, he had a hell of a time getting them off. So there we go, 289 C4, 289 C4, 80 and 80 over 289. Yeah, I can't believe somebody bored this thing over 80 thousandths, but we're gonna roll with it and see what happens. Alrighty, during that last time lapse, we got the transmission all bolted up and torqued. I got the vacuum line rebent. This isn't an original line. Somebody made this and it wasn't formed right, so I went ahead and rebent it so it works properly for the gosh, why can't I remember anymore? I'll think about that in a sec, but it's the vacuum line for that. So we got the bolts in. G Junior is getting ready to put the starter in so we can figure out what we're going to have to do about the transcooler lines. We also put the transcooler adapters in here, and here we had to find an O-ring for this. We got the new dipstick O-ring in. The Speedmaster heads, instead of using 3/8 bolts, they are using 7/16 bolts. So we had to get a 7/16 bolt, cut it down, and re-drill the bracketry for the transmission dipstick. That's good. Trying to figure out about this kickdown cable. All right, there is a O-ring right here that we painted by accident, and I'm wondering if there's supposed to be a washer or not. I don't think there is. I think the arm is the only thing that once you tighten it up, the arm is what retains it all. And it looks like that's going to work with the original linkage there. We got the torque converter bolts in. We got the transmission lined up, all torqued. We put the shield on here. He's putting the starter on. I think we can put the starter on to get the motor back in. And we need to rebend some. We need to figure out what we're going to do with these broken lines. So here's 2 of them. I think we can reuse these. This has the piece that hooks to the motor mount, I do believe. So this is the rubber hoses went to the radiator, and then these came back and hooked here. So we'll put them back together and figure out what we need to do to fix the trans lines. I know this is a pretty boring video of us just bolting the transmission to the motor, but this has taken us, how long do you think it's taken us, G Junior?
A couple hours.
It's taken us a good couple hours to get this transmission on this motor. It always seems like oh, this will be easy. It just takes forever. That's why I did the time lapse, because I knew it was going to take forever. You know, I think the only thing we need to do now is we need to go ahead and turn. I want to put.
Okay, hold on.
Is that you?
Yeah, that's me trying to get the starter.
What is rubbing? Wait a minute here. Is that the starter that's rubbing?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I hope it's the starter that's rubbing.
I don't have it in.
Well, here, can you lift up on the back of the starter for a second? Okay, let me see. Okay, yes. G Junior didn't have the starter in, but I want to put this back on top dead center. Okay, I got it top dead center, and that's pointing toward number 1. Okay, like I said, this is a pretty boring video. We'll come back in a little bit. Alrighty, well, we actually took the motor off of the engine grain and set it on this rolling cart that we have. So I started looking at the trans cooler lines. That's the fitting that goes here. There's a fitting that goes there. You can see we broke them. And here's the original trans lines that somebody has cut and spliced in. These I broke. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and remake them. If I can't remake them and make them decent enough, they're only $40. G Junior got the starter bolted in with new bolts, and I have the positive wire going to the starter all hooked up, routed properly to go up to the starter solenoid. This is where the trans lines are supposed to sit, probably missing another one of these brackets that sit back here. I don't know what we're going to do about that, but for now it's quitting time. We need to go home. It's hot, getting a little humid, so I think we did enough for today. So probably the next time we come back, we'll be dropping it in.
Dropping it in, that's right.
So now we got to get the car back down here. Got to get the car back down here. We had the bay again for a little bit, so we will get it in. I think it looks pretty good. You know, we've got we're gonna run with the old fuel pump, the old coil for now. I might get a new coil. We got fresh oil in it, a new oil filter, brand new motor mounts. The converter was going through, the transmission's rebuilt. The engine, we did a top end on it. We did not do anything with the lower end since it's bored 80 over. I don't think we're anything that we can really do about that. We probably need to play with the carburetor spacer and stuff. Oh, and then I'm also still looking into this this linkage. I know there's an O-ring in there, but I don't know if there's supposed to be a washer behind this to keep the O-ring in, or this just bolts on, excuse me, nuts on like that, and that's supposed to keep that O-ring in there. It still seems like there should be a washer, but I could be wrong. You put a washer in there, then this thing might bind. So we got to find the nut. I can't believe we can't find the nut for that. I don't know what happened to it. We should have bagged and tagged it like we're supposed to, but for some reason it's not in the bag. All right, everybody. Anything else, G Junior?
No, not that I know of.
Alrighty, everybody. I think we'll cut this one here. This is episode number 18 on the Mustang Rustang, the engine, getting it ready to get it back in the car. So if you like my videos, please like my videos. If you subscribe, you can subscribe always down in that corner down there. And we will catch you on the next one when we're going to start installing this bad boy back in the Rustang.